goes and finds him, asks, are there any relatives from the house of Saul left? It reminds me of another story in the book of beginnings, in the book of Genesis, over around chapter 3, when Adam and Eve fall in the garden. And they mess up big time. Mankind, humankind, our anthropos, we're at an all-time low. And it's at that time that the Bible says that God came walking in the garden in the coolness of the day, looking for them. It's something about being in Lodabar. When you're in Lodabar, it seems like God begins to seek you out. He begins to look for you. He begins to find you when you're at your lowest point, when you're at your worst. Has anybody ever had that experience? I'm so glad tonight that I serve a God that's willing to leave the flock of 99 and come find this one lost sheep. I tell my sisters all the time, I'm just so grateful that I know that God is my number one stop and I'm His America's most wanted. David goes to Lodabar and he finds Mephibosheth and he invites Mephibosheth to be a part of his family. He actually gives him a place at the king's table. He gives him back the land that was rightfully his. Mephibosheth was the only heir that was left of Saul and Jonathan, so he had an inheritance, and David restores him and places him at the king's table. And when that takes place, that means that Mephibosheth had moved from the palace to the project. Y'all don't know nothing about the project. I know y'all live west of I-95. I know I got the wrong crowd. But he had gone from the palace to the project, back to the palace. He had gone from poverty to plenty. From peanut butter and jelly to plenty. Can I just make it real? Can I just bring it on home? He's gone from welfare cheese to now having hors d'oeuvres. And even with all of that, he remains humble. I ask myself why. He's now in the palace. Not only is he in the palace, but David has hired 35 employees to serve him. Ziba and all Ziba's relatives. And he remains humble. As this story goes on, David would eventually leave Jerusalem at this time. He would go and begin to engage in warfare again. He would go and fight the Ammonites and the Syrians, and he would get caught up with Bathsheba and have her husband killed. And he would go through the drama of his son Absalom killing his other son Ammon. He would deal with all kind of family dysfunction and family drama. And as he was literally leaving out of Jerusalem because his son Absalom was trying to kill him, David goes to the Mount of Olives, and he finds himself there on the Mount of Olives. But it's interesting, if I could just rewind for a moment, we're going to talk about this thing about walking into a wealthy place. I believe that Mephibosheth in this text at this point, in this particular chapter 19, has found himself in a place of rich fulfillment, because he's at the king's table. But he is so committed to his relationship with the king that he does not allow his seat at the table to distract him. He doesn't allow his seat in the palace to change his relationship with the king. I mean, Mephibosheth was so in love with David, the text says that he mourned and he grieved. He didn't even comb his hair or shave because David had physically left his presence. I asked myself now, Mephibosheth was lame in both feet. He had gone through so much, and now he gets in the big house, and he remains humble. And I said, well, how could that be so? And I believe that as he walked into a wealthy place, there were three things that Mephibosheth understood that I want to help you with tonight. Because when God delivers us, he brings us out of situations and circumstances. He brings us off the street. He cleanses us up. He comes into our life and he changes us and he turns us around. And we find ourselves at a point in life where we're living better than we're ever living. We're eating better than we've ever eaten. We're riding better than we've ever rode. When we're in that wealthy place, there are three things that we must understand on this Christian journey. The first thing I believe that Mephibosheth teaches us is that we must understand the grace of God. Mephibosheth knew that David should have killed him. He was not aware of the conversation that David had with Jonathan. So he didn't know that David had promised Jonathan to show him kindness. So he knows that David should have taken him out because David should have saw him as a threat. Because by genetics, he should have been the next one to go to the throne. But David shows up, and instead of killing him, David seeks him out to bless him. Some of you walk around talking about you're too blessed to be stressed, you're blessed and highly favored. But who are you seeking out to bless? Who are you trying to help along this way? You see my sister, you know she's laying and crippled, but you won't reach out and help her. And God forbid if she got 3 or 4 children, can I just talk like I want to talk about that? God forbid if she got 3 or 4 children, we too caught up on who the baby daddy is, knowing that we need to be helping that sister. Too caught up on the fact that you wearing that size 6 dress with all the cleavage showing, knowing that you can fit that thing, you be wearing it yourself. You can't help a sister because we're too busy doing our own thing. We're too caught up in the talent. A lot of us just need to look back, and I'm not talking about 10 or 20 years when you were 26, 34, 26, 34, 26. I'm not talking about when you had it all going on. Just look back just a few days and think about what God did to you just yesterday. How God brought you up